tell me what you were going to say right away.
Interesting way that they put the premise of this movie on
Okay.
IMDb.
How'd they do it?
Are we not going to say hello?
Not yet.
It is impoverished priest Hari Har Ray, dreaming of a better life for himself and his family, leaves his rural Bengal village in search of work.
That's very odd because that's
the dad's
like...
in it less than anyone else.
Yeah.
How sexist.
Huh, that's very strange. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
My name's Micah McCaw.
My name's Jordan.
And we exist to prove people wrong when they say...
sequels are never better than the originals.
And we are doing a special series, one that we've never seen, called the Apu Trilogy. We're going back to the 50s, and we're going across a very large body of water, maybe two, I'm not sure, to get to the country of India.
Just the one.
But what about the Indian Ocean? Where's that at?
Oh.
I think we got to
Is
cross
it by
that
India?
too. I don't know. I mean, if you're going direct, I think you might have to cross it. I'm not sure.
Don't you have to cross Africa to get to India?
Don't you have to cross Africa to get to
look
India?
at a map. From where we are.
But yes, this is the Apu trilogy, and today we're talking about Pathar Panchali. We are going to have trouble getting through names, so bear with us on that. But we're going to do our best.
I wonder from us if we would go east. I just always assume we'd go west
to
get
over
anywhere.
The Atlantic. Interesting.
But to go over
or the
Pacific.
Pacific, I mean.
Micah. Go to like Japan.
Uh-huh.
And then get to probably a million flights to get to India, but then you get to India that way.
So only
thinking
one ocean in that regard.
You would, if you went over the Atlantic, you would have to go over Africa.
And,
if you were doing a straight shot.
And would you go over the Indian Ocean?
You would be in the middle of it. So technically, yeah, in a way.
Hell yeah, I was right. This is such a great way to start what will need to be one of our more scholastic attempts at this podcast. Is us stupidly discussing geography and not understanding where things are in the world. And now we're going to talk about a very complicated moving film. Yeah, so we watched it last night. We were like, you know what? Let's do something really different. This year's been turning out to be one of the more fun years of the podcast because we did Planet of the Apes, we did Spider-Man, and then it was like, let's do something else, but let's
keep it international. Let's do international.
Yeah. And so we got something from the Criterion Collection.
Yes, so we're wearing our glasses while recording, and we hope you're wearing your glasses while listening, and you pushed them up on the bridge of your nose as you hit play.
It's so great. We got a good booklet that I read today. There's a lot of special features. I haven't had a chance to look at any of those, but going to be diving into those for future episodes. And yeah, so this is one of the big movies. This is one of the great international films that we're discussing today.
Is it?
Yes. This had a pretty big legacy, and it's pretty wild. So we're going to get into it. Do you have anything to say before we start setting the table?
I really liked this movie.
Yeah.
A lot. I liked it a lot.
I liked it too.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely going to be one that grows on me as time goes on.
It was much more streamlined than I expected it to be.
Yeah. And what was your expectation?
That it was just going to be more loose.
Mm-hmm.
Not much of a story, not much of a narrative, but it was a pretty straight through narrative.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah.
And like people's desires were pretty clear.
Uh-huh.
Or what they wanted, who they were going to be or wanted to be, and where they ended up I don't know. I just expected it to be much more meandering.
Yeah. I found it a little bit taxing to watch, but that's not always bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's plenty of movies that are great in that regard. And I was even a little scared to say that because this is like, if you're a film lover, you know, you gotta love this movie. And I'm not saying I don't love it. I'm just saying I was getting tired toward the end of the movie, you know. But it comes together. It's really great. I'm excited to watch the other ones. And then reading about the movie has really helped me understand it a lot further.
I can't wait to learn more. I still know nothing. Can
Yeah.
you promise me right now that we will get some Indian food before we're done watching these movies?
Jordan, I can promise you. We should we can watch the next one maybe with Indian food in hand.
Okay.
Some naan perhaps, and then what's the cheese?
Paneer.
Paneer. Oh yeah. Maybe we should try that place downtown this time that you've heard is good.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste. But I like Blue
But
Royal.
I kind of like Blue Royal.
And once you and I are into one, it's
not
hard
just
to
us;
leave.
it's everybody. It's like I think few people are, unless it's like fun for them. Few people are checking out different Chinese food restaurants. Everyone's got their own.
Yeah.
You go to that one Chinese restaurant. We pretty much go to that one Thai restaurant. There was a brief period where you and I
go to Kin.
Well, you and I were still dating, and we were like, let's try all the Thai restaurants in the Rogue Valley.
Oh, that's
and
right.
We didn't even finish doing it all because we did do a lot, but it was just like Siam's just the best one.
Yeah.
And we've gone to others since because others have been open and they've been good, but it's just Siam's the best.
Siam's the best. There's what is it? Vim's Thai, and
there's Kin Thai.
No. I'm just a little anecdote. That is one I'd never been to because the location's a little strange, you know, which is not necessarily bad. You kind of want a weird location.
We
with
had
Thai
been
food.
told that place was good. My family really likes that place. I've never been there with my family.
Yeah, but your family's been to Siam and didn't really like Siam. So I was like, I don't know. So then Mike Combs, you know, huge fan of the pod. He's been a past guest, you know. He took me to lunch there like a year ago, and it was delicious. Have I gone again? No, until he was like, hey, do you want to get lunch? And I was like, let's go to Vim's again. Because it's always Siam. It's always going to be Siam with me. But let's talk about Pathar Panchali. So, this movie is directed by and screenplay by Satyajit Ray. It is based on a book of the same title by...
Please pronounce it.
Bibhudabu Husan Bandiopadhyay. I'm not laughing at the name. I'm laughing at myself. I don't even have a clue how to pronounce this. I actually tried to look it up, and there was not nothing popped up. So I am sorry, you wonderful author.
Say his name.
You wonderful author. Bibhudabib Husan Bandiyabad.
It sucks when you were coming across a name, and so I at my job talk about a lot of books.
Yeah,
and sometimes you get to a point where you talk about so many, you don't need to prepare as much as you used to talk about them. you know all the points you need to hit. However, many times
I like where this is headed.
I'll be presenting a title and I'll get to the author name and I realize I have not said their name out loud yet.
Yeah.
And you just have to proceed with confidence.
Yeah.
And just blow right through it while you know the people who are listening to you are probably laughing.
Yeah.
Or just at least smiling to themselves like, that ain't it.
So this is one of those moments.
Yeah.
But the book in one of the English translations of the title is Song of the Little Road.
Okay.
All right. So I'm trying to think how I want to do this. Do I want to talk about... Because I want to go back to him... All right, we'll do it like normal. So the cinematography is by Subrata Mitro. At the age of 21, he'd never operated a camera before. And he began his career with this movie, having not operated a camera.
Well, bravo, because this movie is shot so freaking well.
Yeah. And he's going to continue to work with Ray, which is the last name of the director.
Like there are shots in this movie that felt. I guess maybe that's the secret sauce, isn't having no experience.
Well, here's the thing.
That can benefit you, but
so if I can find it really quick, where is my note? Where is it?
But there felt like some shots that felt more modern.
Yeah,
I know the 55 is not that old, but It kind of is.
No. I know what you mean. A lot of it did feel very modern. Yeah. So I don't know where this note went, but he was like taking pictures on a movie called The River that was being made,
Okay.
and him and Ray met on the set. And he was like, it was not super clear, but I think he was the set photographer, just taking pictures and stuff. And so, later, Mitra, I'm sorry, not Mitro. Mitra said that he thought that maybe Ray was a little too afraid to work with like people who knew what they were doing, because
Oh.
this is his first movie.
Uh-huh.
Um,
That's
so,
interesting.
and they're going to continue to work together. The art director is also first time doing something
Wow.
like this. So we'll talk more about that. I know that was a little confusing. I'm also trying to mention their names, and it's tough to go back to them because I can't remember them. The music is by Ravi Shankar, who's a sitarist and was a sitarist and composer, and he actually scored the movie Gandhi
Okay.
as well. But he's like,
never seen that movie.
I haven't either, but he is, like a virtuoso,
Yeah.
like huge influence on music.
Yeah.
An
Awesome.
influence on George Harrison in particular from the Beatles.
Okay.
I couldn't find out if that was specifically the score of this movie or that composer. I think it was probably a little of both. So yeah, have I confused you yet?
No.
Okay, great. In India, the movie comes out August 26, 1955. So this movie was made on a roughly $14.7 to $31,000 budget. And then
all the sets are real. Like so much of the movie was real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you know that because at the beginning of the movie, at the credits, it says like made in cooperation of the kindness of the village that they shot in.
Yeah. And then it has made, I think this is to date, it's made $21 million at the box office.
What a profit!
Yeah, that's a good profit.
A good profit.
I'm struggling here. Okay, so the novel is a classic Bengali coming-of-age story that came out in 1928 in like a periodical kind of thing, or maybe a magazine. Serial, yeah. And then was later published as a book. And so Ray, he was a graphic designer for Signet Press. And let me see this wonderful note that I have on my Criterion Collection Blu-ray. I almost said extended edition because I still got Lord of the Rings on the brain, but there's this wonderful section on here that you will definitely want to look at, but it's Ray's storyboards for Pathar Panchali. Satyajit Ray was earning his living as a graphic designer for an advertising firm when he made his first foray into filmmaking, an adaptation of the novel. Ray was already well known in Calcutta. Is it Calcutta? For his woodcut designs for an abridged version of the novel. So he'd made these woodcut designs for it. When it came time to raise money for his debut feature, he created storyboards using water and ink to prove to potential producers that he had the visual and storytelling skills to be a director.
Give me that.
And then the pages afterward are a bunch of the storyboards. So, yeah, he was a graphic designer, and he's making this stuff for the book, and he's like, man, this should be a movie, and I should be the one to make it.
Awesome.
Yeah, did you find it?
I'm looking at some of it.
Yeah. React in real time so that I don't have to edit.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is sweet.
So, that's kind of how things get going. He starts thinking about making this movie in 1946 to 47. He's thinking about doing it. He never made a script for this movie.
Wow.
Because it was just in his head. And he said it had to retain some of the rambling quality of the novel because that in itself contained a clue to the feel of authenticity.
That's like the slice of life thing.
Yep. Life in a poor Bengali village does ramble. So, yeah, that. They put ads in the paper to cast Apu, and no one worked, but Ray's wife saw a neighborhood boy running around, and they cast him.
That's crazy.
Don't you love that?
Because the kid in this movie is
He's got that quality. He's got
he
that
has
thing behind
it.
his eyes. Yeah.
He's so cute.
I think he's still an actor. I think he still acts.
His IMDb picture is just him as a kid.
Oh, really?
But that doesn't mean he doesn't still act.
Oh, maybe he doesn't. Well, that's your foray anyway. All three main cast members, their last name is Banerjee.
Are they all related? I was wondering.
None of them are related.
Wow.
So that I wanted to point that out. So to make this movie, he gets a little bit of funding, and they start working on it. But to continue shooting it, he had to borrow money. He pawned his life insurance and sold gramophone records. His wife pawned her jewelry.
Wow.
Just so they could get more money. They ran out of money partway through. Ray later admitted that the delays that made him tense, that there were 3 delays that made him tense, and they were 3 miracles that happened on the set of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because it took them from, where's this note now? They shot this movie from 1952 to 1955.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's because of all of this, like, stopping and starting and, this is a real, like, keep your dreams alive, folks, because there's no reason that this movie should exist from what we're describing. So the first miracle was that Apu's voice did not break during production.
Oh, in the 3 years.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
The second miracle is that Durga did not grow up.
Yeah.
And then the third is that Indar Thakran did not die, the old woman.
Oh my gosh, that lady was there for the whole 3 years. I just assumed that, this took 3 years to shoot, but like by the time they were done, they hadn't needed that lady for like 2 years.
No.
Oh
no.
my gosh.
So that's pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
And then finally, not finally. There's quite a bit left here of fun stuff. So Monroe Wheeler was head department of exhibitions and publications for New York Museum of Art. And he was in Calcutta in 1954 and heard about this project. And he saw some of the footage and was like, this is incredible. If you get this done, we will put this in the Museum of Modern Art.
Okay.
And so 6 months later, John Huston was visiting India for some location scouting for his movie, The Man Who Would Be King. And Wheeler asked Huston to check the progress of Ray's project. Huston saw some of the film and recognized it as, quote, the work of a great filmmaker. And because of Huston's positive feedback, the Museum of Modern Art helped Ray with additional money.
Wow.
And then they eventually...
I got chills from that.
Yeah. They eventually bring it over here. And it ran for 8 months in New York's Fifth Avenue Playhouse, which is a record.
Wow.
So in the U.S., this was like...
a hit in a way, right?
Yeah, very low level
hit,
but like for its standard, like people resonated with it,
and
enough to keep it in a theater for 8 months.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting in reading the Criterion thing because there was actually send it my way. There's
I'm sorry.
Ow, one of the corners hit me. So there's this thing on it called Behind the Universal, and it's an essay by Girish Shambhu. And this person is just talking about quite a few interesting things that we're going to talk about. But one of the things is how this movie resonated with Western audiences.
Yeah.
And one thing they thought is that some like critics, not critics in a bad way, but it unconsciously affirmed Western notions of India that strongly associated the country with poverty.
Oh.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The second reason that Western critics have soft-pedaled so he's saying how some critics were like dismissive of this movie.
Yeah.
And he the person who's writing this is not like agreeing with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
just saying like these are some of the reasons.
He's criticizing the critics.
Yeah, and just saying like this is how it was received when it came out, and then a second reason that Western critics have soft-pedaled the culturally specific in Ray has to do with Ray himself and his intriguingly contradictory and ambivalent statements and writing about his own cinematic work. So he's come from like a family of like writers,
The
and
director.
and he like lived in the city and stuff, and then he's making this movie about like the villages, you
Yeah.
know. So some people have been. I think critical is maybe too strong of a word, but that's maybe part of the reason why some people like connected with the movie, because it like, you know, was like, yeah, those are my biases about India, even though that was never like the intention of the movie.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if I explained that well without reading this whole
Yeah.
article, but she said, yeah, that means I explained it well. So most of the score was composed in a night, over 11 hours.
Wow.
This was sent to Cannes
Yeah.
Film Festival, and it won Best Human Document.
What?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Probably just like documenting humanity. You get an award for that.
Okay.
I didn't mean that to sound dismissive.
No. It just is a weird title that I'm sure they don't use anymore.
Yeah.
Or they've updated it to make more sense.
Well, I think they,
because it's not like, I know like this is fictional, but I understand.
I think
that maybe
it was like a special award they gave out to this movie.
It represents like a way of life. Like, I don't know. It sounds like a slice of life award.
Yeah, but I don't know if they still have it or if they ever had it.
Yeah.
Except for that one time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure though. And then here's a nice quote about this movie that I like. Just what it's about. It's about unsophisticated people shot through with great sophistication and without a trace of condescension or inflated sentiment. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then just a couple more things here. Because maybe you could tell the audience our experience with Indian cinema. Because that was, knowing that we were about to watch this movie, I was like, this is not what I expect from Indian cinema.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit while I find this stuff?
Just that, well, it was RRR that got us into it. And that movie made global waves. We missed it in theaters like idiots.
Yeah.
And
one of life's great regrets.
Yeah, but it is one of the best movies ever. We've seen a couple more movies by that director. Can't remember his name.
SS Rajmaju.
You're close.
Yeah, SSR. I mean, his last name starts with an R because that's part of the in title of the joke. Title of the in joke of the title.
Yeah. So the other two movies we've seen are Bahubali Part 1 and 2, which are also highly recommend. They're so fun and great.
Iga, of course. Don't forget about Iga.
Oh, that's one of his movies too?
Yeah, we've seen 4 of his movies.
Which is about a man who was murdered and is reincarnated as a fly and terrorizes his murderer. And still gets the girl that he was falling in love with to fall in love with him as a fly.
Yeah.
It rocks. That movie was crazy.
Yeah.
And then it spurned us, whatever. We got into Amir Khan, who was a huge Bollywood actor currently.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been around for a long time. Probably his biggest movie is Three Idiots.
Yeah, or Lagan.
Lagan is huge. I know that we know people who have seen that.
Yeah.
Like growing up watching that. It's a really good cricket movie.
Yeah. Sports.
Three Idiots, though, is also a really good movie that I think shows a part of Indian culture that I had never seen before. And it's much more modern.
Yeah.
It is. It's set in modern day. And then for kicks and giggles, we have not watched it. We've heard it's terrible, but he did make a Forrest Gump recently. An Indian version of Forrest Gump that apparently is just awful, but I bet it's still kind of fun.
Well, I just gotta know because it's like,
Forrest Gump is so American.
Well, and it's such, he takes a tour through American history.
Yes.
So if we watched like the Indian version of that, would we get any of it? Like,
I don't know.
Because it like, is he affecting all of the changes in India, and would we be familiar with those? And like, it'd be the same thing if someone didn't know anything about American history. Would they get anything out of watching Forrest Gump? I don't think so.
I don't know.
Because part of like the reason that Forrest Gump works, at least somewhat of what it works, we recently watched it and it doesn't really hold up.
It doesn't, but we also still landed on I guess I enjoyed it.
It does and it does. It's a very strange movie, but it works because of the gimmicks of the movie. If there's no gimmicks in that movie...
If that movie came out today, it would be a laughingstock. I think for many people today, it is now It is turned into that. But as an Academy Award-winning movie.
A Best Picture winner.
Yeah.
Best
Actor
winner. Best Director, I think.
Yeah, so... interesting.
Yeah.
And then what is that other Amir Khan movie we watched with
PK, where he's the alien?
Not that one. That
Oh.
one was probably my least favorite out of
It
the ones
was,
we watched.
but
it was
it's so
the guy,
fun in
he's
my brain.
crazy. But the one where he is a teacher, and he goes, he's
like Stars on Earth.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that movie is so good. You gotta watch them. All these movies are on Netflix. Netflix has like all the Indian movies.
I know.
got,
I
like,
think
a
they
deal
did
with
some sort
India.
of deal with an Indian distributor.
Yeah.
They have so many. And
That movie's so good, and I think that one made me cry.
Yeah, that one's
everyone
a
like
beautiful movie.
tells this kid that you're worthless, you're stupid, you can't do anything, and this guy just came into the school and just someone finally listened to him.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to cry even talking about it. The
It's
movie
very
is so
good.
good. Okay, but then we also there's Shah Rukh Khan,
Yes.
who we've only seen one movie, Jawan, which was borderline unwatchable for me, but still crazy.
Yeah, there were
a wonderful dance number.
There were so many cuts in the movie that it was I kind of felt like I don't get seizures. I don't have epileptic seizures, but I thought that the movie might induce one.
Which was, so there's a lot about that because after we watched Bahubali with friends, this is the second time you and I watched it, one of our friends was like, there's this other Indian movie that's like super highly rated. We should watch it. And he put it on and we couldn't tell for like 20 minutes if this was a trailer or not.
Yeah.
It was cutting so much. Determined it was the movie and got out fast because that was unwatchable. But the thing about Jawan for me was the actor plays two different characters.
Right.
His father and his son, and like the son of the father. And the man looks incredible. I do not get.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's like late 50s. And he looks incredible. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that I think it was all makeup and genetics. Like, I don't think they were touching him up. He looks crazy good.
And I think it's actually charming and I think intentional in a lot of ways, but a lot, not all, but a lot of the VFX that are used in modern Indian movies that I have seen are extremely noticeable.
Yes.
Are like, absolutely, you are not going to miss them.
If
they touched him up, I feel like we would have seen that.
I know. I mean, we watched a whole 45-minute movie, probably longer than that, about a fly.
Yeah.
And that didn't look good.
No, but it looks good.
Yes.
It's like they're confident in they're not so obsessed with realism, it seems.
But what we've learned with the Indian movies we have seen, I'd say that we've seen a lot by now, but we've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
I know. Their movies are so, and I don't mean to just kind of like, this is all Indian movies.
Yeah.
But
we're celebrating them. We're not, so,
Well, I'm just making a blanket statement, and I know that does not cover all Indian movies, but they're so hard on their sleeve.
Yes.
So yes, they're cheesy, but they know that they're cheesy. And that's a wonderful thing about it.
Yeah.
And it makes me, because before getting into more Indian movies, we were really getting into Korean movies thanks to Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of Korean movies by now, and Korean movies are dark. A lot of that we've seen. We've seen some like zany, fun ones. But so I think
we have? What are zany, fun Korean movies we've watched?
The Host? Is that the?
Oh, that's
That one's pretty bananas. And then that other one that's like Coen Brothers funny.
Oh,
that has
that movie rocked. What
Choi.
was that?
Is Kang Ho Song in that one?
Kang Ho Song was in it.
And Min-sik Choi was in that too.
They were both in it?
Yes, that's why we watched it, because they both were
that
in
was
it.
a funny movie.
And that was really funny, really dark.
Gonna have to look up what that movie was.
That movie was so good. I loved that movie. But for the most part, they're really, really dark movies.
Yeah.
And they really there's a lot to chew on.
Yeah.
In a great way.
Yeah.
So I think when we discovered getting more into Indian movies, it was like, this is nice.
Yeah. Well, and it was just this, I'm sure if you listen to our episodes over the past couple of years, you've heard us talk a lot about Indian movies, but there's just something so refreshing about it. I think American cinema is starting to go back to a little more earnesty.
Do you think so?
Well, we'll see after the box office receipts for Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
But I think we're all a little bit tired of like undercutting every scene, every joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out this year and doing even Dune. These are not movies that are like cheesy or corny or making jokes all the time, but they're not like, we got to make the joke before you do. They're like, we're taking this absolutely as serious as possible, even
Yeah.
though this is a giant monkey man who's saying, "What a wonderful day."
Yeah.
And that's what's great about it. And
Yeah.
Dune is the same way. You know, it's like, we're going to talk about like this weird spice, melange spice, and we're going to talk about it for 20 minutes, and you're going to like it, or you're going to leave the theater.
Yeah.
We
We're going
don't
to drink
care.
worm pee.
Yeah.
And you're going to wish you were drinking it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't wish to drink the worm pee. I would die.
But yeah,
I'm not Lisan Al-Gaib. Come on.
But the thing with Indian movies too that we've learned with many of them that we've watched, they're incapable of being anything less than 2.5 hours. They're always more than 2.5 hours.
They're usually 3.
And I do love that.
I love it too. Yeah. I think we're also getting that movement in our cinemas as well, like with movies like Avatar and Dune and stuff, where it's like, if you'll let us take it seriously, we'll make a longer movie. And people are going. Oppenheimer, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
If the movie warrants that length, and it's not just like, well, it's another superhero movie, it has to be 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
If it is like, no, it's a 3-hour biopic about the man who created the atomic bomb. It's 3 hours. Come see it. Huge hit, you know?
Right. Oscar winner.
So I'm glad we talked about that so much, because I don't know about the exact specifics of the tropes in India around this time.
Yeah.
But I think the way we were viewing and our experience with the movie going into this is actually like maybe how, in its own way, people experienced it then.
Yeah.
Because so in Indian cinema at the time, so India is one of the earliest places to also start working in movies. They're working on movies like right after the Lumieres are doing it in France, which is the first movies. And so they had a strong studio system set in place before this movie came out.
Yeah. And so I'm looking up other Indian cinema stuff. So
okay, can you're
looking at Bollywood and Tollywood stuff?
Okay,
and when those started,
you're catching what I'm throwing down.
Yes.
Okay. So commercial films were made in large numbers in Hindi and in several regional languages, but it was Hindi language cinemas with Mumbai as its center of production that proved to be most influential, and there became a typical Indian movie, typical type of Indian movie. By the time Ray came along, a certain ruling Mumbai film, quote, formula was in place. The recipe produced in large numbers films that were all-inclusive entertainment, driven by stars and containing something for everyone in the audience: songs, dance, fights, romance, stunts, and comedy packaged into a melodramatic narrative form. So they had maybe like their version of what they have now, but now it's just different.
Yeah.
And so he's looking at that. He's reading this book.
Go ahead.
And then he is like, we're going to make something that isn't really any of those things. And so I think actually it's funny. I think that was maybe the best way to view this movie, because it would have been how like an Indian audience would have seen it back then. They would have been used to whatever bombast was in the 50s in their movies. They would have been used to that and seen this quiet movie and been like, this is so different from any of the other movies that are coming out.
So all the movies that you and I have seen, Indian movies, are Bollywood, Tollywood movies.
Yeah.
Bollywood is a portmanteau derived from Bombay, the former name of Mumbai.
Ah, okay.
And Hollywood, a shorthand reference for American film industry.
What?
So the term Tollywood...
I've never heard of Hollywood.
Tollywood for the Tollyung-based cinema of West Bengal predated Bollywood.
Oh, it did? Okay.
It was used in a 1932 American cinematographer article by Wilford E. Deming, an American engineer, blah, 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 who helped produce the first Indian sound picture.
Awesome. Cool.
So yeah, Bollywood was probably invented in Bombay-based film trade journals in the 1960s or 70s. There's no like exact date.
Yeah.
But I knew getting into this movie that we're talking about today, it was not a Bollywood movie. I was not expecting any kind of dance number, but I was curious to know, was that a big thing at the time, even at all? Even though like the 50s, like that is in some ways like we're pretty far into film at this point, in a way.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. So I had no idea how long Bollywood had been around. Apparently it had, pretty much. I mean, you just described it without using the word.
Songs and dance and, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, this people would have had maybe that same expectation.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, do you want to hit some actors?
Yeah, Harihar Ray is played by Kanu Banerjee. He was also in some other movies in the series.
Oh, okay.
And then a lot of Indian movies. Do I need to actually like name the new movies? No one's gonna know.
Yeah, that's a good point. We wanna.
But I want to give shout outs to these people because they were great.
Yeah, just give shout outs to the people.
Karuna Banerjee plays Sarvojaya Ray, the mother. Yeah, I'm just quickly looking at theirs. She's been in a lot of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uma Das Gupta plays Durga, the daughter. She has a 2022 credit.
Really?
She's barely been in anything, so I don't know what that is.
It's probably like a look back at Pathar Panchali.
It's not Micah.
Fine.
What was the aunt's name?
Auntie. I don't think they actually called her a name.
Indir Takrun.
Yeah, I think that's her.
So that was played by Chunibala Devi.
Okay.
She kind of got MVP for me.
Okay.
As well as Durga.
And she was an old I think she was an old stage actress.
Great.
So
she was crazy.
Yeah.
And then Apu is played by Subir Banerjee.
I guess we'll find out if he still acts or not.
He has barely any acting credits as well.
Okay.
He has an acting credit from 2012.
See, he acted 12 years ago. What did I tell you?
Yeah.
Your face is scrunched. You're concerned. You're worried. What is happening?
Just very weird images of this movie that was weird. So yeah, he's barely been in anything.
Okay. So, you want to talk about the movie?
Do you?
Yeah. Oh, I found out that the movie's in the 1920s is the time period.
Okay.
Because I couldn't get a bearing on that.
Okay.
So, how do we want to
So the movie begins with a woman yelling at a child stealing fruit.
Yeah.
And says that she's always stealing fruit.
This is Durga.
This is Durga as a young girl. So they live in do you remember what the village is called?
No.
Okay. So they live in a village and so it seems that her family lives in poverty. It seems like this village is relatively poor anyway, but their family, even more than that, live in poverty. Their house, the structure that they live in is very run down.
It just looks like a courtyard with like some stone walls. It doesn't look, but they do call it a house.
Yeah, I mean, there's a roof and walls.
Yeah.
It's just very, very run down.
Mm-hmm.
We learned pretty early on that the father's ancestral home.
Yeah.
So it sounds like when him and his wife got married, they came back here.
Yeah.
But
did you catch that they owned that vineyard? Yeah.
So assuming ancestrally they owned that vineyard.
Yeah.
But the people told Ray, the dad, that like your brother had debts and give us the vineyard and it'll pay his debts after his brother died or something.
Yep, exactly.
So that's how they've lost it. And the dad is unemployed but trying to find a job, finds a job, seems to pay intermittently. And the wife is often worried about having enough money for food, paying their own debts, buying clothes for their children. Mm-hmm. They have their auntie that lives with them. I kind of wonder if she's like everyone's auntie, like the village auntie.
Yeah.
But they basically take care of her.
Yeah.
But if you look at it very like superficially, you'd think like the mom nags the dad. But the movie is much more detailed than that. I don't take it as she's nagging. She is so worried constantly for the well-being of her children, their status in their village. Yeah. She's like with her daughter stealing fruit, she's worried that all the villagers are going to hate them and not talk to them anymore because of that. And she seems to have she even says that at one point she had her own aspirations
Oh,
and
that was
things
a
she
brutal
wanted out
scene,
of
yeah.
life. But now she's just we never even see her sleep. We see everyone else sleep but her, I think.
Yeah.
She's always preparing food. She's sitting by the children's bedside as they sleep, taking care of them,
Yeah.
mending clothes, so on and so forth.
Yeah, she certainly she was the MVP for me.
Yeah, she was great.
Because it's one of those classic great performances where she is, she is like nagging and she is being annoying and she's stingy with the money, even though, they are poor, but it feels like the dad is like, well, let them have some sweets sometimes. Let it,
Yeah.
like they're
But
kids.
it's that thing where it's like, you get to just leave this
Yeah.
our destitute situation and go do things. I'm stuck here having to take care of
Yeah.
it all. And so, and I do believe that the dad is working, and he's
Yeah.
because he's just so carefree.
Right.
But
But-
I'm not really led to believe that he's lazy.
No, but I do think she balances this.
perfect.
No, she balances this whole thing well as a
Yeah.
performer
Yeah.
because yes, she's that way, but you do see her situation and you understand and you get it.
Yeah.
So I love that, and everybody on the Fan Bam thread has got to stop texting. We're
Yeah.
recording right now. So then eventually a child is born, and this is Apu, who we are going to follow over the next 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty silly and funny of me because I said, I knew this was called the Apu trilogy, but I didn't know anything about it. Like, literally, I knew nothing about this.
Uh-huh.
And so I thought maybe it's thematic, or whatever. I did not realize that it was, like, about a character named Apu, and we will follow him
Yeah.
as he grows up.
See, this is what I wonder about.
Yeah.
Apu. Is this more simply we're just seeing everything through his eyes, or is he the family's hope to get out of their poverty? Because it seems like the girls are not sent to school,
Mhm.
but only boys are. So they have a boy finally, and they're like the moms, even the daughter. They're making sure that Apu is washed, cleaned, eating, going to school. He's taken care of.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I just didn't notice a
it's
lot.
pretty subtle, but yeah.
I didn't notice a lot of like what's happening with Darker, the daughter,
Yeah.
at this time. It was more of like she's always in trouble.
Right. Yeah. I think you're
But
right in that.
We'll find that out as we go on with the movies.
Right.
And and I could see it also being both of those things.
Well, and a thing that I saw in praise of this movie is like it is, the perspective of the child. I mean, we even get that with like the first shot of Apu is his eye opening up.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a baby before that, but like
Yeah.
the actor, when we skip forward a few years, and so like we're seeing the perspective of the child, and we're seeing like how even in the mundanity, like children can have fun.
Yeah.
And do stuff. And that's like one of the beautiful things about the movie. And what maybe resonates with people universally is that, we all experience this kind of stuff, even if we're not an Indian
Yeah.
in an
Yeah.
impoverished area.
Yeah.
Like everybody experiences these sorts of things, and the fights with their parents,
Mhm.
hearing them argue about money. And skipping forward several years, and they're still like in the same situation. We all experience that kind of thing, and so that's why it's like so universally beloved. But
definitely,
yeah, husband gets a new job. There's this whole scene where he's talking about how he's going to be writing plays because,
well, that's what he wants to do.
Yeah,
because he wants to try to get a troupe to come into town, a theater troupe, because they're always rehashing things, but they'll want new and original things, and that's what I'll give them. But we never see that amount to anything.
Yeah, which is, I'm watching it and I'm like, oof, boy.
I know.
But I mean, hey, this guy who's making the movie is, he did come from a family of writers, and he seemed somewhat well off, but he just comes into filmmaking and just makes it happen, So, folks, sign up for our Patreon to help us make it happen for ourselves and listen to our episode.
As no one's listening to this episode, Pather Panchali.
Yeah, is there anyone still left?
Oh, they've all left, but Mike, I'm sure. If that guy can sit through a Maboose, like 4 hours of Maboose,
Yeah.
he's listening to this.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Rebecca, you there? What if this became like our most downloaded episode? Like it just somewhere in the world, India, they just are like, they're just like,
someone's talking about it. Someone's talking about it.
And then they're like, this isn't a very good episode. They don't know what they're talking about. Okay, Apu's older. They play tic-tac-toe in school, which you can't do.
No.
I just thought that was kind of funny. I wrote that down.
But we see a child being hit.
Yeah.
Or we witnessed that, and you notice that those were all boys, and there was a girl that did show up to like purchase rice from. I was so confused by the school system, but to purchase like rice from him, and then she was just kind of hanging around,
right?
But ran away as the boy was starting to get hit by the teacher.
Yeah.
But it seems like Duggar. Am I saying that right?
Durga.
She has a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like Apu is just like the little brother who's always hanging around kind of thing. But Durga and him have a good relationship. At that one point when Apu takes that like coconut half with something in it and she mixes it with, it was like oil, and she mixes it with something.
Yeah.
And they are eating it. Do you have any idea what that is?
I don't have a clue.
I was curious.
But I wanted it.
I assumed it was something sweet, or it was as close to a sweet they could get, because that was when the sweet seller was roaming around the village, and they really wanted money. Dad was going to give it to him. Mom says no.
Yeah.
So then they run to the next kid's house, and they're buying sweets for the children, but that mom is like, don't give any to them.
Yeah, they're always coming here mooching.
Yeah.
There's this moment in the movie that I'm thinking about that it's just like such a wonderful picture of childhood. And it's maybe one of the most insignificant things in the movie. But she's going to play with her friends, and her friends ask him, they're all like, hey, do you want to play with us? And he says no.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks away. And there's something about that that's just so childlike and wonderful in that moment. And it was so like, it kind of felt like, oh, that was just footage that they caught of the kids like playing, not like for the movie.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie's really good at.
Everyone's performance in this movie is great to me.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
The lady who plays the auntie is crazy. Her performance is crazy to me. And it is a miracle, like the director said, that she made it the 3 years, because if anyone watches this movie, that lady is old.
I know.
Like the oldest actor I might have ever seen in a movie.
Certainly the oldest looking
was.
actor. Yeah.
Yeah. But she, even like her character and story arc and stuff was very interesting, where she basically was homeless.
Yeah.
But like, I assume the village takes care of her. But really this family takes care of her. And I do wonder like the actual familial relation, because she does get kicked out more than once, but at another time goes to another family, and they also call her auntie. And she's just hoping people just like give her some space to sleep, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Eventually she leaves that home, comes back to this family, and the mom is still pretty hard and is like,
she's a very bitter woman. I mean, absolutely.
It's just like, you just keep stealing our food and stuff. Like you keep mooching off of us.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that anymore. And so the lady leaves and then just dies.
Yeah.
Like in the forest.
Well, and the scene preceding that is obviously the best scene in the movie.
The train,
where the kids go and they're hearing
this
train.
Movie's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, it's shot so well. It's bonko. But there's this scene where they go and they see a train and they try to go take a look at it, and it's like, as
they're chewing on sugarcane.
Yeah, this glimmer of like, what could be, or like there's other stuff out there. It's not just
they're
this village,
dreaming.
but it's also just kids being kids.
Yeah.
Well,
even throughout the
I
movie,
love all that.
One of Durga's friends is getting married.
Yeah.
And they're talking about it, and she's like, well, my parents will never, like, I'm never going to get married. And I think a friend was like, no, it'll happen for you. It'll happen for you. Cause they're like coming of age.
Yeah.
And she just like knows, I would assume because of their social status, like we couldn't even afford, like we have no status. No one who will want to marry me.
Yeah.
Who could my parents possibly find? Cause that's how it works, of the parents finding the suitor.
Right.
No one would agree to marry me.
And ultimately she's proven correct.
Well, there's not really time.
No, I'm saying she dies, so she
That's
does
what I'm
not
saying.
get married.
There's no time
Yeah.
for that to even be a thing. But yeah, we could talk about that too. There's a rainstorm and Durga gets sick from it.
Yeah.
And dies.
Yeah.
And that was wild.
Yeah. Oh, and this I had put this on my letterbox, but it did, as the movie was going on, and once it got to the end and she was like on her deathbed, it's very, very different. But it really reminded me of the Grapes of Wrath, taking out the travel.
Yeah.
Where it's
so
like,
what you think it's this family that's on the continuous fruitless search to better themselves.
Absolutely.
And
you could not have put it in a more eloquent way, Jordan.
half step forward, 3 steps back.
Yeah.
Every step of the way. That's what it is for them. And then at the end of the day,
yeah,
tragedy. More tragedy.
Yeah, the daughter dies, and then the
family has to. Well, they decide to move.
Yeah, when they leave their ancestral home, which is a pretty big deal at the end of the movie, and they're driving away or riding away. There's an element of like, yeah, that's the end of the Grapes of Wrath. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
but it's like life moves on.
Life moves on.
That's
but
like the end of that.
There's also another thing I'm just thinking of now, which is there's something so poignant about that ending, and I'm glad that the next 2 movies are well regarded, because that's such a great way to end a story where it's like they're never gonna rise above this. The end, and this is just where it goes. They're always gonna be leaving and trying to find something else, and so if like the next movie was received poorly and was critically not beloved, I'd be like, they should have stopped there, because that's the poignant message. But I guess there's a lot more still to say.
Definitely.
But yeah, they leave there's this great moment where the dad comes home.
He'd been away for 5 months.
Yeah, and he doesn't even know his daughter died.
See, that's the thing where I'm confused about, in terms of like, what were you really doing? You leave to find work, and you write home at some point saying like, this thing didn't work out that we were really hoping for. I'm going to go to this town.
Yeah.
And I think there will be something for me there. And then it gets to a point where he hasn't written for a very long time. And the wife is like, they have literally nothing. And one of her friends is like, you should have just told me that you had nothing, because we can't help you. Like, she's going through the woman's pots and she has nothing in them. For food, and she has children.
I think that's the same woman that was like, "Give me my rupees back."
That was a different lady.
Oh, that was a different lady.
Because that lady comes later after.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of. You're right.
But then, the dad comes home and is like, so happy to see his wife. Let me tell you about my trip. Oh, I got presents for you, and he's like, I got a new sari for Durga, and then the mom starts crying.
Oh,
and
brutal.
That's how he finds out that his daughter's dead.
Yeah.
But then that's what. So then they're moving and they're packing everything up, and that's when that bitter lady comes.
Yeah.
To give her a bunch of mangoes. Like, that's crazy. This lady who was the one at the beginning, the first line of the movie, yelling at Durga to stop stealing fruit. She comes to this family bearing a basket of fruit.
Yeah.
And she says something like, basically like, it's good that you're moving. People who stay in one place for so long, like, they rot in the place that they're stuck in. She's like, that's how I became so bitter. Like, this changed. Like, Durga's death opened her eyes to how bitter of a woman she had become.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Full of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not smart enough to think of anything else to say about it.
Well, what do you think about Apu?
Well, first of all, cute as they come.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's just what we've been talking about this whole time is it's such a human movie, and there's not that big scene. And this goes to Apu as well. You know, there's just moments like when he's trying to tell his sister like, don't come here because they're accusing you of stealing this necklace, and the mom's noticing him like trying to shoo her away. And he's just it's one of the more like childlike performances that I've ever seen in something, certainly way up there. Which reminds me of when they're all saying that the daughter didn't steal this necklace that she's accused of, and she's doing it. And then at the end of the movie,
preserves her memory.
He finds it.
He finds the necklace up on a top shelf as they're packing up to leave, which confirms that the daughter did steal the necklace.
Yeah.
And what does Apu do? He goes to the pond and throws it in.
Yeah. And then the weeds slowly cover it up.
And that happens right after the scene with that lady who was accusing her of stealing it. And that, he hurt like he was there for all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he hides that thing, hides the necklace.
Yeah, it's almost like protecting the legacy almost. And if it's found, then, which it wouldn't be, but if it ever was, it'd be like, well, if it must have fallen off,
Yeah.
And all of that stuff, it's just it's so childlike. And after reading all this stuff about the movie and thinking about it, it is like, yeah, it makes sense that this resonates with so many different types of people. Because as much as it's clearly a very Indian story, and there's a lot of stuff that that kind of goes over our heads. It's like, but you get it. You get it all.
Yeah. Like I said, this movie had much more of a through line for a slice of life movie. I was just expecting a little bit of a story, but just a lot of pretty images.
Yeah.
And it was a definite story of character development.
And a lot of pretty images.
I
did really love, and it speaks to like because this movie is a slow, deliberate pace.
Yeah.
Which is not bad. When it's deliberate, that's good. The more I'm talking about it, the more I'm like, I really love this movie. It's like, I guess it's one of those movies I just had to talk out. But when you're seeing the water skippers, and it's like a minute of just that, and that's after she dies, right?
That's right before it's right before she gets sick.
Oh, okay. But it's just this great, like, little moment where it's like, okay, we're just gonna watch this for a little bit. It's really great.
When one of those shots was all like the water lilies, I don't know if that's what they actually were. But like a field of them, and the rain started really coming down hard. I was like, is this gonna make me cry?
No, Jordan, that's just rain on the movie, not your eyes. Gabing. Yeah, so I would recommend it.
Yeah.
To you listeners, if you made it this far, I actually think knowing what happens is really not going to hinder your enjoyment of the movie. And hopefully it won't hinder mine, because while reading that thing, found out a couple of things about some of the other movies. Have you said all you wanted to say?
I don't know. I think so.
I think so for me too. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
I hope you like MPU Scholastic, our offshoot. So next week we will be covering the second movie of the Apu trilogy, which is of course, I know it, and it's off the top of my dome. It's very easy for me to remember.
Apu movie number 2.
It's just something that I love to just say to myself all the time. It's Aparajito, of course, in 1956.
Great.
And that's something I've known.
They made it that fast after this one? After this one took 3 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there's a little nugget of something to take with you.
So find out more about that nugget next week.
Y'all take care now.